What is your fake it till you make it story? I George Costanza my way into a job in high school. I was looking for a new job and went to apply at a local movie theater. The general manager asked to interview me on the spot, which I wasn't at all prepared for, but went with it anyway. This was like a Wednesday or Thursday night. The interview went well, and she told me she was going to be out of town this weekend, but she would let me know on Monday. I didn't want to wait, so the next day at school I got my work permit filled out and took it back. I dropped it off to another manager and told them she told me to bring this crap in. They asked if I could start the next day. I ended up working there for over 3 years. This guy hired himself. My entire professional career, I played with computers growing up insofar as I knew how to turn one on, download a game, and play them very well. I knew next to nothing about building them or troubleshooting them, usually depending on my friends to help when my second-hand PC threw a shit fit. Cut to me, fresh out of college with a waste of paper degree looking for a job. I get hired by an IT contractor, cause I knew a gal that knew a guy, with the understanding I needed to know the basics. I didn't know shit. I made it up as I went along, googling the living shit out everything. That was 10 years ago. I'm now a systems administrator. Still googling the living shit out of everything, right? I felt like I was reading my life story there. How? Not me, but my cousin applied for a brand new restaurant job and didn't get it. Her friend got the job and she was pissed she didn't get hired. So her friend told her where/when orientation was, and she decided to fake getting hired till she made it. She went to orientation, all the training, introduced herself to all the staff, management, and made her presence known. After a couple of weeks working, everyone got their paychecks, except her. She went up to management and was like, WTH, everyone got paid but me. You've seen me working for the last 2 weeks. Management goes into the computer system and checks. That's so weird, you're not in the system. I'm so sorry, must be a clerical error. We will get you in the system and paid right away. And that's how my cousin fake got hired till she made it. I wanna be like her when I grow up. Well, now I gotta find out if this works or not. I taught a class on a specialty software program. I was learning the software myself, and I was literally one class ahead of the people I was teaching. My first job as a programmer, I didn't know how to write a single line of code. Was about 12 years ago. I wanted to learn programming, and I chose a hot new programming language, Ruby. I did a tutorial for Ruby on Rails. Remember the one where you create an e-commerce store with a few lines, EHH. But I had some problems running it on Windows, so after I figured it out I documented it on some forum. A guy messaged me that writing a guide shows initiative and they are looking for a Ruby guy. I never say no to anything. We Skyped, the guy liked me, and I got the job the next day. Remote. The salary shocked my 19-year-old self. The company was a mess at first. It was a new project. I was pretending to work for the first 3 weeks, while in reality I was learning for 12+ hours a day using books and tutorials. Somehow I fucking winged it and stayed with them for 3 years. I actually became proficient with Ruby, Python, and JS along the way. During college, I worked part-time as a deli clerk in a grocery store. I had zero experience with deli items, didn't know head cheese from salami or provolone from Munster. So, I'd explain to customers that I was new and ask them to point to items in the case that they wanted and what the sign indicated for the price per pound. They always seemed happy to help out, especially when I gave them free samples from the slicing machine. I was desperate for a job several years back, so I wrote up this resume that was utter horseshit on a whim. Granted, some of it was legit, but a good 80% was me bullshitting. Amazingly enough, I got a call for an interview, and by some miracle they ended up hiring me, and I worked for the place for 7 years before something I was actually qualified for opened up at another workplace. That bullshit resume saved me from ruin though, so I always will look back in that crazy situation fondly. My piece of shit druggy brother-in-law used to lie and said he had heavy equipment operator experience. He'd get the job and get fired in a day or two, but pick up something small. Did that 15 or 20 times and kept moving around until he learned enough to not get fired. I had this file thing in elementary school where you have to put all your worksheets in a folder and my teacher will check it at the end of the year. Well, I did not do it and convinced her that I handed in, but she lost it. She said she will get back to me and I'm still waiting. My business started by me just saying yes, I can do that. I can supply that for you. I had no idea that they would be willing to hear me out 5 years later, and I'm now supplying desks and office equipment to over 120 offices in London. You really can go far if you just say yes. My coworker has a degree in mechanical engineering in another country, but was lucky to get a job in the US helping to fix the Y2K bug. He was told to search for year codes in software and edit it a certain way. He was so out of his league that when he made a mistake that he couldn't just backspace to fix, he would accidentally turn off the computer to restart it just because he didn't know how to undo edits. He's now a lead Java developer. Last weekend I was at a wedding dance and they played the Jit Up. No one knew the dance, including myself, but liquid encouragement kicked in and I lead the entire wedding dance, 50 plus people, in a dance that I completely made up on the spot. Everyone was so impressed after that I knew all of the moves that I didn't tell anyone any different. Social anxiety. I was always the quiet guy up until a few years ago. I decided I was tired of not having friends and I started faking confidence and talking to everyone. In the beginning I was dying inside and felt like I was walking on glass. Now I don't know when to shut up and can talk to just about anyone. Almost a decade ago, I was banging drugs and ended up in an induced coma to save my heart. After coming out of a coma, I was still addicted to the drugs and needles, but deadly afraid of doing it again, for fear of finally dying. I asked doctors, family, anyone who visited me, how I could overcome the addiction, because I didn't want to go back to that lifestyle. One buddy just said fake it until you make it. It just clicked and resonated with me. I lied to myself and everyone that I was afraid of needles and hated the drug I was doing. I kept on until one day I woke up legitimately afraid of needles. I was still in the hospital for all of this though. I was mostly lucky to be held and detoxed before release. The phrase has continued to help anytime I am at a low, though 9 years sober in 3 weeks. I dropped out of high school in 10th grade. I hated school with a passion. I did get a JED. I started working retail and found I really liked managing projects and eventually people. I ended up leaving retail for a call center job in a fairly large company. Within 4 years I was running a marketing division. I had no fiend clue what marketing was or anything. I'm just good at getting people to trust me and I'm very creative. I got bored there and somehow got myself into another marketing role at an even bigger company. 5 years later I'm the CMO. I still really don't know shit about traditional school taught marketing. I literally faked it till I made it. I'm very good at what I do. Honestly, being happy and social. Going into high school I was in a super bad place. I was treated very poorly throughout elementary and middle school and essentially was a social outcast for a long while. In order to make friends I faked being a social and outgoing person since I had a fresh start with different people. Now that's actually the way I am, very social and friendly and willing to talk to anyone. It's tricky to come out of that shell, but you get there eventually. A few years ago, my class had to write an essay about an important moment in our lives and read it in front of the whole class. When it was my friend's turn, he went up and did his speech, like normal. The teacher asked him to turn it in, and he said he didn't have it. Turns out that he never wrote one and just made it up on the spot. Currently living in a third world country after being in first world my entire life. I'm 16. Gonna fake that I'm happy here till we make it, fellas. Edit. I sorta wanna start a Reddit channel about my travels and what living in a third world and one of the world's most dangerous countries is really like. What do you guys think? I invented every higher up position I've had up till now. Started in call center, went to and said I'd like to help with the Christmas party. Hung out with admin assistants on off time to plan, but it led to them doing other things also and me watching, asking questions. Went back to and said, I've learned how to do blank, can I do blank? What if I combine blank and blank? Created incentive program, went back to and showed my work, became in charge of that, and was given a planning committee for any event/contest/employee morale. Half the time I didn't know what I was doing, but just by being sneaky I figured out how to create things they needed. This is just an example. I've done it with 3 jobs and have gotten awesome experiences, knowledge, and pay from just bugging people because I'm bored. Went from hospitality at a casino to an engineer by faking my resume. I had general electrical knowledge, but that's it. Within 6 months got promoted and left to a higher paying job where I constantly feel like the least experienced engineer telling my engineers how to do their job. Granted, I studied ALIT, but my old chief engineer said I was like Leonardo DiCaprio in Catch Me If You Can. Edit. Since people got upset about me using the title engineer, I'll clarify. I repaired heavy machinery and agree technician would have been a better title. But engineer was the title I was given when I started there, so that's the title I used. I started as a saleswoman at a small paper company. I got myself promoted to office manager simply by saying I was. The marketing manager left the company I worked for. As the youngest person on staff, management asked if I knew digital marketing and could maintenance the website. I said, oh yeah, I know all about that. Knowing absolutely nothing, I proceeded to Google everything, SEO, paid search, HTML, etc. Fast forward 10 years and I'm the VP of a prominent digital advertising company and responsible for record company high revenue. I keep up on industry trends and I always look to see how I can better understand the technology. I spend my days being a marketing executive at an electronics manufacturer, traveling the world to be heard in meetings, conferences, and trade shows, but actually I do jack shit behind my PC and just Slack and read Reddit all day watching people pop pimples.